So Highland Noise Podcast. I'm Shane.
I'm Glory.
And we're here with
I'm Josh.
And we have some questions today about his upcoming album, a collection of short stories about the heart. So congrats on that, by the way. How do you feel about the response to the announcement so far?
Really good. Really good. I've got a fantastic community, fantastic fans, and they've just been so supportive. It's kind of unreal. Like, I'll post some things sometimes and be like, oh, no one's gonna care. And they do. So yeah.
Well, that's awesome.
Exciting.
The album is fucking awesome.
Oh,
Thank
hell
you.
yeah. You're dropping it at the perfect time as well. It's like sunny, warm. Come on, man. Mm-hmm.
Peak season. I am curious about the timeline for the record, though. When you kind of started writing it, when you had the masters in hand, rough dates, they don't have to be exact.
No, yeah, totally. It's been about 2 years, honestly. Yeah. And some of these songs that are coming out on this album were released 2 years ago, and they have since been reworked a little bit. When I first started this project, I put out a lot of songs that I was really proud of, but the production quality wasn't there because I just wasn't sure what I was doing yet. And so a lot of these older songs are getting a little bit of a boost. So this has really been going on for about 2 years now. And what was a couple EPs fragmented has turned into kind of a coalesced story now over the past 2 years. Yeah. So it's really nice. Yeah. It's nice to see it all come together and have somewhere where my music's a little bit more bingeable and not just kind of split up into a bunch of singles and things like that. So
and it's super cool to hear that it is like it's some past work as well as some new work, and you've kind of been building into like this cohesive story that you now have with this album.
Yeah, and I didn't know that I was doing that, which is really strange. Because at the beginning of the album, I just got out of this really long relationship. And when I say really long, it was like 10 years.
Damn.
Yeah. And so, that was my entire 20s, and I was entering my 30s and just navigating the dating scene and, getting my heart broken by like little situationships and things like that, and I eventually fell in love and didn't even realize that I'd fallen in love. And over the course of 2 years, you kind of hear the story in the album. Things kind of fall apart at the end, so this album almost feels like, if you listen front to back, like you're kind of in this happy-go-lucky, I'm learning how to date again vibe, and then you fall in love, and by the last few songs of the album, you're gonna get your heart ripped out.
Yeah, damn.
So it was unintentional, and I'm glad that it worked out that way.
Exactly, it's wonderful. I love it. So, is there any meaning behind the album title or cover art?
Yes. So, a collection of short stories about the heart came very naturally. I know that, I'm very into literature and poetry and just all those things. So I have a theme, around books and things like that, like chapters. And this just felt like it was a collection of short stories because some of the lyrics and songs in here are so narrative. And I mostly sing about mental health and things like that, but this album touches more on my heart and relationships and things like that. And so that's kind of the story behind the name of the album. And with the art, if people have been following along, and if you want to go back and look, we kind of pieced together each one of the singles features a little small piece from the album art, and then the album art all comes together with all the different pieces. Which I was really excited about. Branding isn't my strong suit, so like when that all came together and like I saw the 3 pin posts at the top, I was like, we did it. Yeah, totally.
Hell yeah. I love when bands and artists do that. They piece together and the album art winds up being the pieces of the single art. The cohesion of that makes my brain happy.
Yeah, and it's hard to do as a content creator as well because some of my thumbnails are just ridiculous, and I can't just go through and white my page like some of these bands can, like for a new release. Like I have to keep my page how it is, so pull that off. I was very happy.
Absolutely. Now you mentioned the word content creator, so I gotta ask, do you struggle at all with the balance of having to be a content creator while also being an artist in this glorious age of 2025, or do you have that balance down?
It's a struggle, and I would say that the content creation was more of a means to an end to get to where I am today as an artist. I had to play the game. I had to just find my audience, and how I did that was by making jokes about emo stuff, and eventually there was a couple or over 100,000 people that followed me, and I was like, cool, now I have a bunch of emos in the same room as me. I'm gonna put out some music that they're all gonna vibe with. And so that was kind of the play. And over the last year, I really started shedding the content creator stuff. I stopped taking sponsored posts. I stopped going to like music festivals to promote those festivals. Instead, now I'm trying to play those festivals, you know? So it really was a conscious decision to be like, hey, I'm going to tank my Instagram and I'm going to tank my TikTok for almost an entire year by posting nothing but my music. And I did. I lost thousands of followers and then replaced those with thousands of followers.
Yeah.
So it was a good play. It was a stressful play, but I feel like I finally have crossed that line now where people are tuned in for the music and don't really expect content from me anymore like that.
Yeah.
They're there for you. Yeah.
Yeah. It feels nice. They're very supportive. It feels really nice.
Yeah, that's a very smart play, but also a very daunting play because, like, obviously you don't know if it's going to work out. So I'm glad it did, but that is quite the jump to take to just say I'm stepping away from the content that got me the attention and hope that people care enough about me and what I'm doing to stick around for the total rebrand.
And to be clear, it did not go well at the beginning. You know, like,
no, it's terrifying,
and it's still not going great on TikTok. But like, TikTok is just not going great for anything.
Yeah,
right?
I was gonna say.
I will see people with like millions of followers post and get like 500 views. And
our views are down too.
I'm chilling. Instagram is my baby right now, and it's been great. It didn't start out great, but I would say in the last few months is when it's really started to take that turn. And I think it's because I'm starting to release some of this higher quality music as well, with some better production and things like that. So yeah.
Absolutely. Hell yeah. So can you tell us a little bit about the writing process for the album?
Yeah. So some people know this, some people don't, but I write everything with my two best friends. They're my two producers. They're a fiance team back in Omaha, Nebraska, which is where I grew up. And we typically just send things back and forth. You know, it could be something as simple as me sending them like a, you know, and then him sending that back, and we go back and forth, and then we end up writing the song together like that. And then we say, let's go do it for real, is what we call it. And I'll fly out to Omaha and we'll piece it together. But usually, it starts with the most simplest thing, the simplest riff, or a concept even. And the concept thing was introduced to me by Andrew Goldstein. I did a song with him called Gateway Drug, and Andrew Goldstein is the songwriter for Black Bear, Katy Perry, like all these really big. He wrote Hot Girl Bummer Anthem, stuff like that. So he told me to come into his studio, not with a melody, but with a concept.
Okay.
And I just came out there with the concept of a gateway drug on your way to love. That's all I gave him, and this man just went off to the races. And within 5, he's like, well, that would be like a gateway, and I think we spent 7 hours and that whole song was completely finished.
Wow.
So it's the only other time I've worked with the producer outside of my two friends. But I dragged them there so they could watch and absorb everything. And
That's wonderful. Hell yeah, it's very impressive. Goddamn. All right. So what song off the album took longest to write, and then which one is your personal favorite?
Oh, great question. The one that took the longest to write would be Feel Low. And Feel Low, you know what? I'm going to take that back. The longest one was Spring Fling. Spring Fling, because we rewrote it 3 times because I was not confident in the chorus. The verses are so good, and this is a song that's not out yet, but the verses are so good, and the chorus that I had was just not hitting. And it's because it's a very syncopated guitar part. And so I actually reached out to this really big artist and was like, hey, will you feature on this song? And he was like, yes, 100%. And a year passed of me like being like, hey, I paid you for this. Can I get that? And after about a year, he was just like, hey, sorry, I've been really absent-minded. And I was like, cool, well, can you refund me? And so then I rewrote that song again, and we ended up finally locking in a chorus. And I actually brought it to Andrew, and Andrew Goldstein, I was like, is this good enough? He's like, yeah, man, this is great. I was like, okay. So that one took the longest, the most redos. And I would say my favorite is probably Typical. And this is kind of a soft announcement, but I have a feature on that song, and it's an acoustic song, and Kellen Quinn is featuring on it.
Mhm.
Hell yeah.
And I'm very excited about it because both me and Kellen can sing very high. In and it would have been really easy to just be like, yo, Kelly, do you want to just sit here and sing as high as we can for a song? But I
Yeah.
sent him an acoustic song. And it touches on some mental health stuff and some really deep topics. And we kind of stay in this low, chill range, almost like his new project that he's doing with Aaron Marsh. And we just got this really unique sounding acoustic song that I'm really excited about. So yeah, definitely that one. It was a sleeper for me. I wasn't really sure that was gonna be my favorite.
Hell yeah. Love it.
So you mentioned with Feel Low, you unintentionally kind of put it down for a year while you were waiting for the person to get back to you on the feature. Do you typically do that with songs that you can't crack immediately? Do you kind of put them down and say, I'll circle back around to this? Or when you can't crack a song, you usually give it time working on it nonstop, and then you just kind of discard it if you can't crack it in a certain amount?
Yeah, if we can't crack it
Mm-hmm.
in the day that we're writing it,
Oh, wow.
we'll put it down.
Okay.
Because when you're in the midst of writing a song, things should, in my opinion, they should be moving. They should be flowing. There should be no frustration. There should be no any of that. When you start just sitting there, it's almost like my body will start tingling and I'll get like antsy, and I'm just like, I can't, I'm not focused on this anymore. I'm starting to get a little upset, a little maybe angry with myself for not being able to come up with something. And just putting that down and coming back to it with fresh ears, I think is so important, because you do that and you sit down and suddenly something will just come out and you're like, how did we not think of that yesterday? Like that's lock it in now. So 100% I'm a big proponent of just walking away.
Gotcha.
I don't like to try to force it ever.
Okay, good.
And I will be the first one to shut it down too.
You'd be like, let's give it some time.
Put my hand on my producer's guitar and be like, let's
put it down.
That's enough. That's enough. So had the track list for your album come about, did you write the opener be the opener, close be a closer, shuffle around and see what fits? What was that process like?
So we wrote them all various times, weren't really thinking about where they would fit in the album, especially because I'm bending genre so much. There are pop songs, there are post-hardcore songs, there's a spoken word song, the alternative song. So we really weren't sure where all this would fit in. And if I was on a label, they would not let me release this. There are 18 tracks on this album. They would be like, cut 7, only release the pop rock songs. Don't ever do this again. You know what I mean? But no, we had all of the songs done. And when you write and listen, you have to hear the mixes go over and over and over and over again. And then you hear the masters. So those songs are burned in your head. And so we sat there with a Google Doc and we were like, how can we make these songs make sense chronologically? But also maybe we need to cheat a little bit and bring this one up here, even though I wrote this at a different time about a different thing, because those chords flow really nice with each other. So there's a little bit of that. I tried to keep it, I was kind of stubborn about it. I really wanted this kind of like chronological feel, and I think we pulled it off, but there was a little bit of moving things around, just because like, man, some of those outros into the next intro just work so well. We can't move that. We can't move that.
At least you put some attention into the track list, because in this day and age, it feels like more and more artists are just like, yeah, the intro and the outro made sense, but the rest was just based on vibes. You were like, I got the Google Doc moving things around. I respect that.
Have a whole meeting.
We had the asterisks and then like the double asterisks, like in case we needed to, but we were really methodical about this. And I think that's important because I want people to listen to this album. I know this is unrealistic expectations, but I want people to sit down, put headphones on, and listen to this album like we used to. You know what I mean? Because the only way people have consumed my music in the past has been, here's a single, here's a 3-song EP, whatever, And I just want that experience of someone sitting down, comfortable, headphones on, front to back,
Yeah.
have that experience, and just kind of see or hear what I want you to hear in the way that I want you to hear it,
Yeah.
I guess, instead of just hitting shuffle on my discography and full sending. And I'm guilty of that too.
Yeah. So
It happens.
So with that in mind, what are you personally feeling going into the album release? What are the emotions, anxiety, nervousness, excitement? What are we feeling now on April 29th?
I will say I'm overwhelmed.
Okay.
I am overwhelmed. And I will admit that it is a lot of things to do for one person.
Mm-hmm.
It's just I'm just someone who deals with anxiety and stuff like that already, so it gets to me.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just, I gotta white knuckle it. I slipped up a little bit there. I let the nerves get to me, and then I just bounce back. One of those things that's been helping is just being really honest with my community about it. Like, hey guys, I have this really important thing coming up. I'm struggling right now to handle it all, but I just want to touch base with you, and put that out there, and then have such a positive reaction to that. Like, don't worry, we're still here, has been great, and it lessened the pressure a little bit. And ever since I kind of had that moment, I'm feeling a lot better about it. I'm feeling very excited. I'm watching, the pre-saves rise every day, and I'm watching excitement build around my other songs now. So I'm seeing, a straight spike up on my Spotify of people going and like kind of catching up a little bit. Like they're binging to get ready for the album.
Anticipation.
The anticipation. And I'm seeing it. And that's the biggest thing. And I think I want to go into this without expectations, because I do that to myself a lot, because there's times where I'll release a song and I'll wake up and it's already got 15,000 streams. And then there's times where I'll wake up and it's got 250 streams, a new song, because Spotify didn't put it on enough release radars, And so I want to go into this album just proud of what I did. And I now have a record that you can listen to. And now I have 18 songs that I can promote at will, at whatever the vibe is feeling. I can tour on them. It's just like, I feel like no matter what, this album has now built me a foundation, and now I can build confidence. So win or lose, I now have an album, and that's just a win for me, no matter what. So.
Hell yeah, love it.
Exactly. Beautiful. And would you be able to tell us where your headspace is at while you're creating this record?
Yeah, all over the place. Not to get too deep into it, but I am bipolar. So my mood fluctuates rapidly. And so do my songs. And you can basically, I can, and my close friends can tell when, either I'm maybe a little manic or a little way too sad for a song. And so the mental state was really coming to grips with this new life. I was working a corporate job in a relationship that wasn't really working, and the bands I was in all fell apart because of COVID. And then just my brain adjusting to the dopamine hits of 15 million views and a 250,000 followers, and going to a music festival and having people be like, Josh, can we take a picture with you? And like, all these things, my brain wasn't ready for it yet. And so, through this record, I got more and more used to that, and in a good way and a bad way, because then the bar started going higher and higher and higher. You know what I mean? And so, I think, I started therapy halfway through this record. And so you start hearing me start talking about some more introspective things. And that's why I'm not really singing about self-destructing in this album, where I'm more singing about like, hey, I'm working on things and I'm going to fix myself and things like that. So headspace all over the place, as it usually is. But I'm glad that was the case, because you just get songs from so many different ends of the spectrum on this album.
Absolutely. Hell yeah.
I'm sure.
So how do you recommend your fans to listen to this album for the first time? Should do in the car with friends, in the dark with headphones on, is workout album, party album? What do you personally recommend?
Personally, for this album, I would recommend sitting down with headphones. And if you can, I know this is a pain, but on my website, I will have my lyrics, because every distribution company delays them by a few days. And I will have my lyrics. And this is a very narrative album. So I really would, nor I know a lot of people don't focus on the lyrics and things like that, but I think that a lot of these songs tell some great stories.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's not one of those albums. It's catchy and it's got hooks and everything. You can throw it on in the background, but to really experience it how it should be for the first time would be headphones, listening to those lyrics, listening to these stories.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Really
All
taking
right.
it in.
Yeah, really taking this one in. And then
Mhm.
there's gonna inevitably be hooks that are stuck in your head from that. And then,
Exactly. Yeah.
go to the gym and work out, but that first listen, set that incense in your holder, light up a nice candle,
Hell yeah.
the mood lights. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Damn straight. All right.
Yeah.
And this one should be super, super quick off the top of your head. I want you to describe this album for new listeners in 3 words. No more, no less.
Genre,
Okay.
bending,
Mm-hmm.
chaos.
Hell yeah.
That's good. Hell yeah.
yeah.
And in that same train of thought, is there a certain feeling or emotion you want listeners to have while going through the album?
A feeling of perseverance.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Resilience.
Mhm.
Facing raw emotions and coming out of it stronger. Yeah.
Hell yeah.
That's beautiful. Hell yeah. Wonderful. And are you able to touch on any particularly challenging or standout moments during the creation of the album, positive or negative?
Yes. Positive. Oh, well, some funny stuff is the girl that I was falling in love with. I'm putting out all these singles and writing all these songs, and of course she's privy to hearing them. I get back from the
Yeah.
studio and she'd be like, "Oh, can I hear what you wrote?" And all of these songs are about her.
Mhm.
Aside from a few. And some of them are not great. And so, like I would just be like, "Oh, yeah, I wrote this song about, I don't know. Yeah, I just want to try to touch on it." And I thought that was
Yeah.
funny.
Yeah.
But I would say the most difficult part was when that relationship fell apart.
Mhm.
It fell apart in a very traumatic way for me.
Mhm.
She very much dropped the ball on that. And it was just a very, very, very bad way to end this relationship.
Mhm.
And so the album was done. And I flew back to Omaha in December uh, and re-recorded a couple of those songs and changed the lyrics.
Oh,
And
wow.
that's actually where uh, Unclear came from. But I believe I flew back in November for that. But Unclear being my heaviest song, and just
Mhm.
it sounds like a song of just someone in distress, that
Mhm.
whole song. And I actually was like, I remember being in the studio and like crying, and my producer being like, "No, this is great. Like, this is great because this is changing the tone of your voice, and it's actually like." And we locked in and we did it, and I channeled that. And so,
Yeah.
like, those emotions that you're hearing in some of these songs are literally coming from me, like, actually being that emotional while I
Yeah.
was, especially the screams that I'm doing. Like I
Mhm.
was screaming that stuff while I was processing those emotions. And
Mhm.
I'm curious to see, if all those emotions come flooding back on stage,
Yeah.
Ooh.
and how
Yeah.
that will play out. So,
Absolutely.
Only
yeah.
time will
Yeah.
tell. Yeah.
Definitely. So for this question, I want you to picture you're on tour. You're at a gas station for a rest stop. What is your snack of choice?
Cheez-Its. Don't even need to think.
You were
Don't
quick
even
to
need
the
to
draw
think.
with that one.
Cheez-Its.
Regular original Cheez-Its.
Regular, and I'll tell you,
Okay.
there should only be two types of Cheez-Its. Regular
Mhm.
and extra toasty. Because the best part about Cheez-Its is putting one down on your tongue and just
Mhm.
letting the salt kind of, but the flavored ones, they don't salt them. They don't put the salt on them. They just season them with powder.
With powder. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
I need that salt, you
Have you
know?
tried the smoked Gouda ones?
No, I haven't
See,
tried.
you can't talk on the other flavors until you try the smoked Gouda and the
I'm
smoked
just a
cheddar.
blanket hater.
Yeah, I'm saying you're just talking out the side of your neck. That's crazy. Oh my god. No, you
Yeah.
need. So I'm vouching for them. I'm telling you, they're gonna change your life. The white cheddar gets boring quickly. All right, I'm gonna be
Miss
honest.
me with the white cheddar. I've tried the white ched. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah. But the smoked Gouda and the smoked cheddar, shit's life changing. All right,
okay.
promise you. Give
I
them,
will
give them,
try.
give 'em a chance.
I
Yeah,
will
yeah,
try. I will
yeah.
try. I will
Hell yeah.
pick them up alongside a bag of regular cheeses in case things go awry.
Except in case it goes south.
Yeah.
That's a smart idea. That's a smart
Yeah.
idea.
Yeah, hell yeah. And on the topic of food, if your music project was a dish, what dish would it be and why?
Oh, it would be a pizza.
Okay.
And it would be a pizza that a group of friends all sat down to order, but they all have different dietary restrictions. So like one person's like, on like 4 slices, can you not put pineapple on it? And then another guy's like, can I have ham on my slice? And then someone else is like, I'm a vegan. Can you actually just, I just want the crust. Yeah.
Crust. That's
And
you, Shane.
yeah, and so that would be the dish. It would be a pizza
Yeah.
that was customized per person because I feel like that's how each song is. Like it's just every song comes at you like, wait a second, is that banjo? Like, did we just come out of a piano ballad and now there's a banjo? And like, does Josh have a twang to his voice? Like, what's going on?
Yeah.
You know, that's the guy who ordered the meat lovers. You know, then we go into the Supreme.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, man.
You know.
And for the last couple questions, we're going to shift completely away from music and go straight to death row.
Boom.
So if you're on death row, what would your last meal be with a drink?
I would get chicken cordon bleu.
Okay.
But you know what I would get? I wouldn't have like a chef make me chicken cordon. I would get one of those like Costco, Sam's Club, like frozen chicken cordon bleu. They kind of look like a Hot Pocket. I don't know.
Yeah.
I grew up on them, and I would ask for 3 of them because I only got 2 as a kid.
Hell yeah.
You know, and I would say I want 3.
3. Yeah.
And I think I would want a Dr. Pepper. But then I would probably second guess myself and be like, I'm gonna eat the cordon bleu dry, and then I'd like to finish it with a boba, like a milk tea. You know what I mean? Really milk my time. You know, just really sit back and enjoy that milk tea, and then
And then you know.
All right.
Hell yeah. And if you could live in one fictional world for a week, where would you live?
Woo! Night City.
Night City? Whereabouts is that?
Night City is essentially used in a lot of works of fiction, but it's always the cyberpunk setting. It was penned by a guy who wrote this book called Neuromancer. He kind of came up with the idea of cyberpunk. So yeah, a dystopian cyberpunk city where I live in some ratty apartment and there's just some like seedy things happening around me. Yeah, that'd be cool. Just for a week, though, you know what I mean? And then,
just a week.
Then I need to go home and like eat,
back to reality.
You know? Yeah,
exactly. Safe, you know.
Yeah.
And I've done the last question. Every single person who's spoken to have said that it is the most important question. What is your favorite color?
Purple.
Specific shade of purple?
Yeah, it's got to be. I don't know the name for it, but it's got to be a purple that looks good with like a teal, like a nice light blue, kind of like this purple. You can't really see it because the camera's adjusting a little. It probably looks a little more pink because of the saturation, but you'll also see a purple here as
there's purple everywhere.
Yeah,
even the Pokemon cards are purple.
Yeah, I think I wear a lot of black. I mostly only wear black, but purple and pink go so good with black. That
they do.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. All right. Well, as I said, that's all the questions I have today. Is there anything that you would like to plug?
Yeah, my album, May 30th, a collection of short stories about the heart. It's literally, I've never been more proud of something in my life, and I've been releasing music for 20 plus years now. So you can find anything. I make it really easy. Is It Josh? One word. isitjosh.com. Is It Josh on Instagram? Is It Josh on Spotify? Anywhere you want. I have an app called the Is It Josh app. If you want to listen to my music early, go on the iOS store and just look up my name, and you'll see some behind the scenes stuff on my app.
Hell yeah.
That's fucking dope. Hell yeah.
All right. Well, thank you. Now it's been Is It Josh, and we have been the Good Noise Podcast.